Mhm. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We're on today with the wonderful Dr. PZ Myers. It's always great to have you.
It's good to be here.
It's been a while. I think the last thing you were on with us was the science chat that we had with a whole bunch of people. We talked
Oh,
about our science stories.
way back when. Yeah, yeah. Okay. But now
Yeah,
it's one on two.
there
We'll
we
be
go.
we'll be focused.
Almost. I mean, if you brought one of your cats, it would be doubles.
Yeah,
Hey,
just grab a cat.
where's my cat?
My Enzo would
Oh,
be up in my lap right now if I were in my house. He's very nosy.
yeah. No, our cat is a little traumatized today because we had a plumber come in and fix some things, and
Oh,
Oh,
she does not deal with strangers at all well. So she's
oh,
off
probably
hiding.
wouldn't like either of us. Strange.
Yeah.
I'll pass that. It's a
Huh,
lie.
that's true. Cats do love Savannah. But anyways, let's see. Who is out here? I didn't even open it on the watch page. I totally forgot. In the meantime, so you have been working on spiders recently.
Yeah. It's a big
Alleged.
change.
Yeah. And so how has that been? How's working with spiders?
Uh Well, so I'm kind of self-taught on spider care. So it's been a struggle that I've been learning as I go, and it's kind of anxiety producing actually, because I'm down to just a small number of adults right now, and they're not producing fertile eggs. So I'm kind of freaking out a little bit because I've been hoping to get a good solid colony going by this time. And so I've been crashing all the literature and I've been talking to people and trying to figure out what's going on. And it's kind of mystifying. At this point, I'm suspecting that my zebrafish background may have misled me because I don't know if you know this, but zebrafish are highly inbred. They have very few lethals that get exposed in their crosses. So you can even make haploid zebrafish and they're fine. So I said, yeah, I want to do genetics on spiders. So let's dive in and let's start inbreeding right away. And that may have been a huge mistake. So we're just kind of clinging to to bare survival right now. There's been a lot of strange deaths and unhappy spiders, mainly because I'm on my second generation. So I'm just crossing the second generation from one mother. Yes, so it's getting the grandkids together and having a little orgy, and it turns out they don't produce healthy offspring when you do that.
Oh, I
Yeah.
think people in Louisiana know about that.
Oh, you're mean.
Hey, we can knock on this. We're down here. So.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm trying to keep it going right now, and I'm kind of anxiously awaiting for the spring when I can go on a collecting trip and get lots more. Because if I'm correct, if it is the inbreeding that's a problem, then just by getting new stock, I should be able to get the offspring coming out again. So I won't make that mistake again of being over eager to encourage incest.
I think well, you're kind of like God in that respect, aren't you?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, yeah. Yes.
where will you go to capture more?
These spiders. This is Peristeatoda tepidoriorum, which is it's a synanthropic spider species. So they arose in the neotropics, we think, and they've ever since been hanging on, following people everywhere. So when the first European settlers came over, there were there were individuals of this species in their boats, and then they moved into their houses, and then when they moved out west, they followed along. So they're everywhere.
Hmm.
Yeah, you probably got some in your house.
Oh, gross.
No, wait, what's gross about that? They're wonderful. Yeah.
Exactly.
Spiders are very important.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I did.
Yes.
I
but a
did
little icky.
a little icky. What? I did a part of a video where I talked about spiders. Uh, I did my scorpion evolution video because it was like all about arachnids and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I mentioned there's an herbivorous spider called Bagheera kiplingi, which is pretty neat. And they're mostly herbivorous. They still eat each other occasionally, but
Yes, it's in their nature. So
yeah.
these spiders I'm working with are all obviously carnivorous.
Mhm.
That was one of my early mistakes too, and one of the reasons I've resorted to just doing all this inbreeding right now is, I was kind of optimistic, and I got an egg case, and they all hatched out, and I said, "Oh, this is easy. I'll just leave them all here." And then just throw flies in to keep them all happy, and no, it doesn't work that way. If you miss a feeding, they will start chewing on each other, and so there was a huge die off. So now I'm just waiting for another clutch to hatch out, and what I'm going to do is meticulously separate out each individual spiderling and put them in their own vial with their own flies, and see if I can get the survival rate up for that.
Is the man hours that go into upkeep any different than your last specimens? Zebrafish, right?
Zebrafish, yes.
Yeah.
Hard to tell right now because I've got such small numbers, but I don't think it'll be that bad. That I've been working on my fly dispensation technique, so I can just shake out a whole bunch of Drosophila into a beaker and then just tap it into each one, just zip through it real quick, and you only need to feed them like 2 or 3 times a week. So I'm hoping it won't be too bad. I'm also hoping I will get some students who are interested who will do it. So
I don't know. Spiders are pretty gross. It would throw me off.
Who wants to play with the spiders, kid?
yeah, well, this last semester we had this thing called Science Slam, where you get up there and you talk about what you're doing and you try and get these students excited and come work with you.
Oh, that's awesome. We did
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I could tell a couple of students literally turned their chairs around so they wouldn't have to look at the screen. Because my presentation was all videos of spiders.
That's awesome.
Mating and feeding and running around, and I could see how some people so some turned around, but some talked to me afterwards and said this sounds really cool. So yeah. I don't need all 1,700 students at the university to work with me. Just 2 would be great. There must be 2 people who like spiders at the university, right?
Yeah,
gotta be.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, when I was on LSU Baton Rouge and I was working in the Department of Mammalogy, I asked the guy who was TAing my Bio 1 lab, and then he was like, "Here, check out this website, which is all the professors and the works that are going on right here." And so I just found one that I thought was really neat, and went and worked for Dr. Esselstyn. That was really fun. That was awesome. Yeah.
That's the way it works. And I wish more students would realize that the faculty at your university love you, and we want people to work with us and get just as excited about our work as we are. And so, an enthusiastic student who comes and says, "Oh, I really want to do this thing you're doing," I'm not going to turn them away.
Especially when they're willing to do it for free.
Right.
Especially at LSU.
Yeah, that's one catch. Is a lot of it's got to be volunteer work, but I'm careful about student time, and I try not to overwhelm them. But
What do you mean you have classes?
I think it's a really great opportunity. I know I approached Dr. Suter about working in she has a lab where she tracks phytoplankton clusters. And I approached her about it, and she said, "Look, I don't have the money to pay you, but in a semester, if you're still on board, I would." So, it was an opportunity to grow not only in her lab, but to experience a research field, I guess, to experience that type of thing that I would never have access to.
Yes.
So I think that it's very valuable. Jackson got amazing opportunities and knowledge through his volunteer hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely, I think it was more valuable than money would have been at the time.
Yeah. Well, really,
Trade-off
exploiting students with non-paying internships it's kind of ethically dubious. But
Well, it's okay. Our bioethics course is taught by a Catholic priest, so it's all right.
Oh, okay. And he's granted you a dispensation. Yeah. Yeah. So no, what I try to do is, if like we've got a couple of summer programs where you can apply and get money. So we're hoping, I'm hoping we get a couple of students who are interested in that. I've written to the program and said, okay, put me on your list of people. And I honestly explained in my little blurb about it. Yeah, we're doing spider research. So we'll see if anybody wants to, they'll get paid. Also, if they're willing to work for free in the summer, what I can do is, in the fall, we have these applications for, single semester or full year paying positions.
Mhm.
Try and, write a little, it's a grant that's about this long, just a couple of paragraphs. And we can see if we can get some in-house money for them.
Yeah.
So
That's got to be very stressful, and I would imagine it's exciting to meet younger people who are interested in your field.
Yes, especially if they're smarter than I am. It's very intimidating.
Do you often encounter that?
Oh, well, sometimes, yeah.
Oh,
that
child prodigies coming in, I guess.
Well, the thing is, I don't have the advantage of being young and brilliant. I have the advantage of being old and experienced. So I can offset any inferior mental capacity I have with the weight of the knowledge that I've accumulated. So that's the way we get around it.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm slow and old, but I can teach you stuff. So
right.
Come to my lab.
There you go. I have to ask, do you have any main goals for the spider research right now? Are there any main plans or what?
Well, this year was a preliminary pilot just to see if I can get them thriving in the lab, and so far it's a little bit maybe, but I'm seeing things I can do to improve it. Then what I'm planning to see, first a little bit of background. One of the things I'm really interested in, the reason I've switched to spiders, is that I'm interested in ecological development. So you may have heard of EcoDevo and all this. So it's an angle I want to pursue. And you can't do that in zebrafish because they're all inbred and there's no native stocks, and you can't go out and say, well, I wonder what it's interacting with in the environment. What is it eating? What's eating them? All these kind of ecological sorts of questions that you might ask. You'd have to go to the upper Ganges River in India to do that, which ain't cheap.
Yeah, I imagine.
Yeah. So that's kind of my goal here, is to have a model system where I can actually look at how they thrive in the environment. So one goal is this summer, I'm planning a big spider survey. So I'm hoping to get a student or two. We'll spend a few weeks just intensively going over spider taxonomy and learning to recognize and identify spiders, at least at the family level. And then what we're going to do is ask people if we can visit their garage. And the idea would be just to go through a bunch of garages in the area and survey what spiders are present there. Ideally, I'd like to be able to do that, like May, June, and then in July, and then in August, and maybe another survey deep in the winter, and see if there's seasonal changes, and then also do it every year so I can get a feel for how spider populations are shifting. So that's the immediate goal I'm going to be working towards. But then what I want to do is, of course, developmental stuff. So looking at embryos. I mentioned I went whole hog for incest, and
yes.
yeah, and the goal there was to get a fairly uniform breeding stock, so that we could start looking at inheritance of variation. So I'd like to do some genetics as well. That one, like I said, there's some difficulties there, but we'll see.
Right.
Just keep going, just keep plugging away. And so that's kind of a three-pronged approach, is get out there and survey spiders in the area, do some developmental studies, look at early development in the spider. Other people are doing that too. And then also set up some kind of genetic crosses so we can look at the inheritance of variation. I'm thinking there's some really simple stuff like, I don't know if you've looked closely at spiders, but they have amazingly interesting and intricate pigment patterns. And we have no idea how much of that is, environmentally influenced versus genetic. So let's try and tease it apart with some crosses.
Right. We're actually starting doing, we're growing the Wisconsin fast plants in the genetics lab. So we're going to cross, we got our first generation seeds, and so we're going to raise those up and then get our second generation ones. We're excited for that.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
This time of year, I'd normally be teaching genetics, except I'm on sabbatical. And we've been working on just Drosophila, because that 2-week generation time lets you do so many crosses.
That's true.
Yeah. But the guy who replaced me is a Arabidopsis person.
Oh, yeah?
So we'll see. Maybe he'll squeeze some plants in there.
Guy. Animals are where it's at,
Don't tell him that.
Plants are too complex for him to understand.
I'm not gonna lie.
He's intimidated by them.
You know what? I might know a bit about phylogenetics of animals, but I look at stuff about plants and I'm just like, no.
Oh, yeah, they're weird. Yeah, they have such slack genetics. They can do so many weird sorts of crosses and haploidy and tetraploidy, and oh man,
right.
Don't want to get into that.
Dr. Hardy?
Yeah.
That's what you thought of. We actually thought of the same thing. We met. Do you want to explain?
Yeah. Okay. So at LSUS, I don't know if he runs it, but one of the professors who's very consistently at the location of the science museum, that's where his office is a herpetologist.
I think he's a herp.
We think. And he was telling us that one of his favorite projects he's ever done in his career, he's, an established man. And
that's
one way to put it. And it was tetraploid.
He started doing research on parthenogenetic lizards, and
yes,
and so one of them.
What species was it? Jackson knew the species, and the dude was just like, "Oh yes, it was."
He was like, "I do parthenogenetic lizards." I was like a Spitacilus uniparens. He was like, "Yes,
exactly."
Like
But he had.
Well, there was a paper one of his colleagues did where they crossed. I think it was a triploid with like a diploid, and they got a tetraploid, a Spitacilus, and they were. It was like they had predicted that that's what would happen, or something like that. And so there was that. They also predicted like when they found one of the tetraploid lizards in the wild, they were like, we should find a species closely related to with this number of chromosomes, and with this many copies of chromosomes, and they went and they found it.
Yeah, like within a year or something. Like it was it struck me as a very short period of time where this prediction was realized. But it was very, very fun conversation. I enjoyed him very much. He was very nice.
He also has a parrot.
Yes, they have a parrot that was found in a parking lot that they keep in the museum.
It's pretty awesome.
He wanders wherever he wants. It's very, very fun. It was a little more personal than LSU Baton Rouge generally is. Everyone there is very busy. And so you may stop to talk to someone and you may not be able to really make a connection. And I felt like it was very easy to connect with him and to get time from him. He's very generous with his time. I liked it. He was very nice.
How many biology faculty do you have there?
That's a good question. As a current, they don't have enough to do master's programs.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, we got a bunch of classes, but I don't know how many faculty it is in total.
Okay.
I don't
think a huge amount.
I would think not, because at LSU Shreveport there's one track to get your biological sciences degree, and there aren't really concentrations as far as I can tell. You take this set of classes and they only offer those classes, whereas at LSU Baton Rouge, you have all these different concentrations,
right,
and you can fill your electives in whatever field. So if you're going to be a physician, you're going to take electives that cater towards that. And if you want to be a mammologist, all of your electives can
R&R.
be specifically about mammology.
Yeah.
So, or herpetology, ornithology, whatever you're going to be, they have electives and professors and coursework that caters to that field. And at US, you don't get that same opportunity. So kind of sucks, but
yeah.
and it is at a lower cost. So that's
Right.
true.
So here we've got 8 faculty in biology. So we're kind of small that way. Means you got to be a jack of all trades to teach here.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you mentioned herpetology. We've actually got 2 herpetologists on staff.
Wow.
Which is weird, but okay. They're both good people, so there's no complaint about it. And one of them, the newest guy, is actually studying parthenogenetic salamanders.
Really?
Really?
Wow.
So they're out there. Guy named Rob Denton, who's been studying these for a while. And apparently there's more of them out east, but they've got a little subpopulation out here in Minnesota. So he's going to be studying those.
Not related to Michael, I hope.
Oh,
I don't know who that is.
He's a PIG creationist.
Oh.
I haven't asked him.
Oh my goodness.
That's not the kind of thing you can ask at a job interview, I should tell you. You can't. Are you related to this asshole over here?
You're like, we might lose this application.
No, but he's an evolutionary biologist, so if he is, they wouldn't.
Yeah, strange family reunion.
Yeah, no, I kind of doubt that he is actually. It's not that unusual a name.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is pretty funny. Which kind of reminds me. Well, speaking of creationism, I do want to ask you about this. A certain someone who is in a position of authority at LSUS made the comment during one lecture period that junk DNA does not exist, and so I want your side of that.
Yeah. Where do these people come from? I mean, it's like this is something that we've known since at least the 1930s, that there's a limit to how much functionality you can have in the genome. And it was calculated way back when, in the early days of population genetics, that there couldn't be more than about 30,000 genes in the genome. So, and by gene there, what I mean is functional elements, things that actually make a difference in heredity. Because, if you've got more than that, then you've got such a huge genetic load that, we know the mutation rate that, you would not be able to produce a healthy offspring with a reasonable probability if there were more genes than that. So, just going from that, just from the evolutionary argument, there's got to be something noisy going on here. It can't be all functional. So, I struggle with this because this was my background in evolutionary biology. We knew this stuff. We had the math to demonstrate it. We've had that math for 70, 80, 90 years now. And there are actually biologists who are unaware of it. Why? I mean, and this isn't like some narrow little specialty, okay?
Right.
It's not like, biomechanics of a knee joint or something where I could say, okay, I know what a knee is, but that's about it. And I'm not going to be able to tell you anything about that. This is something really fundamental and basic. And, I teach it in our introductory biology course here. They get it again in cell biology. They get it again in evolution. And how can you be a PhD in biology and not know this stuff?
Right. Yeah. I did ask about pseudogenes and ERVs, and the response I got was, well, I hadn't studied ERVs. And so, I mean, I can understand not specializing in like ERVs. I understand that, but
Yeah.
You know, to just say like, oh, I was kind of shocked.
Yeah. I mean, I don't study those things either.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you've got even a cursory knowledge of what the genome looks like, you know that there are millions of copies of lines and signs and ERVs in the genome. So, you know, even if you don't know exactly what they are, you got to realize that that kind of repetitive DNA and, you know, all those copies and what function we do know is just involved in insertion into the genome of a parasitic sequence. Why would you think that's not junk?
Well, because it could in the future potentially have some function. That was what she told me.
But that's where the evolutionary argument kills that, is because that we cannot have the capacity to have that. And of course, if you understand evolution at all, you know you don't accumulate mutations for the future.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
it's
There's no
yeah, create
teleology
adapt-
allowed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know where these people come from. And you know, I'm at a university, a small university, where I know all the biology faculty, and absolutely
Got them
none
all
of
under
them.
your thumb.
Well, no, we're peers, okay. But I know none of them would argue that they understand the basics of biology, and so yeah. I mean, there's a fair number of degree programs where you're just basically doing applied engineering. You know, you're cranking out sequences or something. You don't have to understand them. And oh well,
Oh well. Yeah,
yeah,
I mean it's I kind of one of the things that struck me about it at first, I was like, that's kind of something like young Earth creationists say. You know, it's like there are no ERVs. There's one well, I know you saw the debate, but he claimed one ERV. This is one of his arguments because he has like five he chooses from. He claimed, oh, well, here's one ERV that is functional. It's like,
yeah,
okay, yeah, this one is. What about the hundreds of other ones? Ah,
thousands and millions of other ones. Yeah,
yeah, he
yeah,
doesn't ever mention those, which very telling. But
yeah,
what's
yeah. It's pretty
like
easy to find. It's easy to find these we would call them junk DNA sequences, except there's always some that have an influence on gene expression
right,
and
right,
actually are relevant and may be very significant in evolution, but the majority, no, they can't be.
right.
Yeah.
You look like you want to say something.
I was just thinking of the day whenever you'll teach a class and he'll be kind of, rusty maybe because we have busy lives or whatever. He maybe didn't look over his materials the night before, and you'll misspeak, and I'm just
Have
really
some smart
excited.
aleck student come up to
Yeah,
me.
one day he'll be in a position of being corrected, and I'm just excited for that day. I was thinking about it.
I'll just be like, yeah. Get out.
You dream of the day that Jackson's ego is flattened. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
So that's on the internet now for everyone to see.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it in quite those words, but a little.
We
Just
see
Yeah.
through the ruse.
one day he's gonna be just a little well-established dude.
I'm gonna be like, this was the taxonomic scheme when I was in college. So you're all
Right.
gonna learn.
Yeah, or you'll misspeak, and I'll just, he'll come home. He'll come home in a tiff, and that'll be real delightful.
I didn't realize my ego was this big of an issue.
Yeah,
I guess
but
worse than I thought.
I'm just daydreaming a little.
the thing is though that we all do that. We all make mistakes.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
And
I mean, I agree. Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't so much that she misspoke though. It was that she, when I went and asked her, she like defended her position. Was like, yeah, I don't think it's true. And I was like, but is it?
Yeah.
I can understand. Speaking.
And supporting something like phylogeny recapitulating ontogeny and all that kind of stuff, or vice versa. That's not misspeaking. That's fundamental misunderstanding of evolution and development. And
yeah,
yeah,
I think she said it. Maybe her idea of it. For anyone watching. This is also, by the way, a different teacher who said or a different person in a position of authority who said this other thing, as opposed to the junk DNA thing. And I think maybe she has a different understanding of what that means, what that phrase means, because she was like, well, look, we have pharyngeal slits like a fish. It's like, yes, they're homologous, but it's not the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe that's what her thoughts are.
I think
Okay.
about how passionless I am on most subjects, and if I did pursue a biology degree where I would eventually become an educator, how passionless I think I would still be. And so having to learn this new material and keep up with literature once I'm having a family and having all of these other things I certainly would care more about than this area of study, how I would perform as a professor. And so I think I understand where that comes in. You're an educator. It's not your priority in life, and you don't really have the energy you're willing to expend on it. Um, I think that becoming an educator, however, if that's who you're going to be, would put your students at a disadvantage. So it's not a choice I would make, but I understand how people get in that position and how ultimately they're just like, well, oh well, kid,
What do you think?
Yeah. Don't you realize that if you don't put biology first and foremost in your life, you don't get to be a professor?
Exactly. Everything's about biology.
Yeah. Now you're right. There's an important matter of work-life balance, and that's absolutely important. But
to get your master's in something and then not,
Or
yeah,
doc.
and then to not want to be correct,
yeah,
it'd be hard to imagine though.
yeah. My problem though is that the way you should respond to things like somebody pointing out to that you've misunderstood something is you should want to dig in and learn more about it, because that's why we're in this business, is because we want to learn things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
Yes.
making
I
a
thought it was to
mistake.
reinforce old dogmas.
Yes,
That's why I keep getting told by creationists.
right. Yes, and making a mistake is an opportunity to learn more.
No, no,
No,
exactly.
you disagree? No, it's not.
I don't. No, I don't disagree. Do you disagree?
Agree to disagree. Yes, maybe.
You're a weirdo.
I agree that we should always admit our mistakes and move forward.
And learn new things. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. Which is unfortunately what the people at Answers in Genesis, moving on to topic 3, never learn.
Yeah.
You were hitting on them in their recent video because they tout the same boring objections
Right.
over and over. You were talking about the a new species of shark that were recently discovered, and they're like, "Oh, it's just a shark." Duh. Interestingly, they actually wrote a page for Dr. Esselstyn. He discovered a species of shrew rat over in Indonesia, which has no molars. It's got a very elongate rostrum because it just sucks up earthworms, pretty much, and that's like all it does. And
Yeah.
so,
If you've got a mouthful of earthworms, you don't want to chew anyway.
right, exactly. That's a good point. But they're like, it's still just a rat, and actually, it's the loss of information. And he was like, I
Yeah.
actually showed it to him one day, and he's like, okay, like I don't care.
Yeah. Right. Well, the thing they're missing is that since Darwin, we've identified a process that generates new species. So finding a new species that's subtly different from other species is confirmation of the process. That's all that matters.
I thought it was the kinds that mattered.
Oh, yes, those absolute, strongly defined kinds that you can't wander between, right?
The most absolutely abstract concept in science.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. RJ and I, as we were going through our rocks book, we had to go through a chapter by Purdom, and when
Uh-oh, you're dropping out.
I was safe with Purdom, but very much was her.
Okay, I didn't hear any of that.
Yeah. Sorry. Can you hear us now?
Now I can hear you. Okay.
Okay. One of the things I think is a lot of people would like to have conversations with Georgia Purdom, but she walls herself off very well. She won't do interviews with a lot of people. She won't go on radio shows or whatever, because if they bring in someone who's like, if they bring someone who's, you know, also a geneticist or whatever, and is like, hey, what the heck, she would have to engage with that, and I'm pretty sure she recognized a lot of her arguments are bogus. And
I don't know. Why did she say them then? I mean, because that's the thing. I agree. They're totally bogus. I mean, everything she says is nonsense. I mean, anything where you're trying to defend the existence of a great flood 4,000 years ago is total bullshit. But she does it anyway. And, you know, she's got a PhD. I just don't. People are really good at partitioning their brains and just sort of walling off this stuff, because the fact that it conflicts with the Bible seems to be a reason for her to reject it.
yeah, that's it's funny you said partitioning your brain, because she quotes a study by some researchers. I think they were geneticists, doing a survey on the of animals. And so
I heard just alien robot gibberish.
Oh, I'm sorry. She quotes part of a paper on these researchers who are doing a review on the origin of novel structures in different clades of animals.
Uh-huh.
And she quotes this sentence where they say, well, it depends in part on how you define a novel structure. And she just quotes that part out of context. She's like, aha, the whole thing is just a definition game for them. But the very next sentence is, here's a list of new structures that we've identified, and, you know, there's all the theories in the literature and all that. Completely cuts out that second sentence.
Uh-huh. Yeah. That's another common strategy, is just the old quote mine. And
I would like to believe that she's not intentionally dishonest. I would like that to be the case, personally.
That she just really believes it. Maybe.
Yeah.
That she's just really stupid.
Really, what does RJ call that?
Tortugan.
Really Tortugan.
Yeah. Because they have the mind shell, which prevents the new ideas from getting in.
She's just not capable of making the connection.
Maybe. Yeah.
Not stupidity, just different way of thought.
Bad way of thinking.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah, RJ. Yeah, that's the word RJ has for it, is Tortugan, and so it's, as I'm going through a chapter by David Menton right now, so I get David Menton and Michael Denton mixed up in my head. And also Michael Benton, and the paleontologist. So there's just all these names very similar to each other. But Menton's chapter is going through the vestigial organs, and he's trying to show why each one isn't vestigial, because it has function. Right.
So he doesn't understand the definition of vestigial organ then.
Well, that's the funny thing, is he actually provides a decent definition of vestigial at the start of the chapter. He's like, well, it could be reduced in function or useless, functionless, and both of those count as vestigial. And then he just ignores his definition the rest of the way.
Yeah.
We should get like reactions from. You should like read their books, I think, and just get reactions. Because I remember when we saw Genesis Paradise Lost, and you said you kept hearing the like on your little recorder, and it's like, oh yeah, that's.
Yeah, that was just me. Yeah. It was tough to sit through that thing, but yeah.
Jackson almost convinced us to sit through the commentary. He convinced me to sit through the commentary. Briefly, he was like, should we do it? Should we do it? Are we going to do it?
I think I also had to pee really badly at that point. So, yeah, it was a long. Well, I mean, maybe it was normal size, but it just felt long because it was grating on our ears and our eyes.
Yeah.
The surrounding us were a little rough.
So this is out on DVD now? And there's a commentary?
I think so. I think it is.
Okay.
I think it's out there for purchase now. Because Paulogia did a whole review of it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Really ripped it apart. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I only facepalmed once during the video.
You can buy it from anywhere ranging from $12 to $20.
Oh,
I pay
that's a
$8 for it.
really overpriced. But yeah.
Amazon is the most expensive, surprisingly.
Yeah, that's weird. But yeah, I did facepalm once when they said Lucy was just a chimp, and I was like, even Todd Wood doesn't say that. He's one of their baraminologists. It's like you guys don't even talk amongst yourselves.
What
before
sound did they put with the? Was it a pterodactyl that they put a sound with?
Oh yes.
In one of the animations.
Yeah, they did.
And then they had a mallard, and it wasn't making the sound that a mallard makes. And I was just like,
what are they doing?
That's the one bird I do know what it sounds like. And you guys disappointed me. Very limited knowledge base I'm working with, and you guys didn't hit it.
I love the tornadoes, though. The tornadoes that created the animals.
I've got to say, I kind of enjoyed seeing it.
Did you?
Yeah.
Just to like see what they made.
I think that the animations were really fun. The graphics were fun. You know, I feel like that took effort and time, and they were ridiculous and silly. But I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And then they also did the interviews back to back where they would contradict each other, and that was really fun.
They did, yeah.
I enjoyed that particular part immensely. I don't remember what they were talking about, but they had, I think, two gentlemen back to back, and they said the exact opposite thing.
Yes, Charles Jackson and the microbiologist. Charles Jackson was like, yeah, we have very high DNA similarities because God designed us very similarly. And then the microbiologist was like, well, DNA similarity doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. Yeah, my favorite part was Charles Jackson telling us how many degrees he had.
Yeah, he's got 4. You know, most evolutionists just have 3.
Yeah.
Well, his top one's an EDD, isn't it?
It's something like that. I don't remember.
So he doesn't actually specialize in any research field. I mean, he can teach well, you know. Well, at least he should be able to with his degree, but that's, you know, what he's working for.
Yeah. No, I sat through that whole movie, and the part that bugged me the most was this was in a theater, and all these families came in with their kids.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I'm just sitting there feeling like this is child abuse, what they're doing to their kids.
Jackson often says that about different events we go to, like
Alien Intrusion?
Alien Intrusion
Have you seen
one.
Have you seen that one or heard of it?
No.
Alien Intrusion was put out by Creation Ministries International, and it's a video. Oh, it starts off. It's narrated by the Duke from Dukes of Hazzard, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, it was the guy from Dukes of Hazzard. He was the narrator in it, which was hilarious because they actually met an alien in that show.
So, wait. So alien. So it talks about aliens.
Yes. Yeah. It's explaining what aliens are to creationists. They're pan-dimensional demons.
Yep. They're proving it's a very long movie, if I remember correctly.
So long. Oh my God.
And about 3/4 of it is proving that aliens exist through eyewitness testimony and files from the government and, all this cool stuff you might see on a National Geographic special. Very entertaining. And then it was entertaining for me. The last quarter of it is aliens aren't really aliens. They're demons.
Yeah.
And so it was, then they were convincing us of that, which I think they didn't do a good job of. I was not convinced, but it was just such a plot twist so late in the game. It was great.
Because they spent a whole bunch of time. Yeah, because they spent a bunch of time telling you aliens do exist, but then they're like, well, abiogenesis is impossible. They couldn't get here with light speed ships, whatever.
There's no way that it's actually aliens. So
actually
here's our
demons.
Theory.
And so
here's what we're positing.
The funniest thing, and I probably shouldn't have laughed during it, and I say it's screwed up, but I thought it was hilarious when I watched it. This guy he's laying in bed with his, he and his wife are asleep, and he gets like a stick put up his anus by the aliens, and he's lifted out of bed by the stick, and he says I called on Jesus, and they fell back onto the bed.
Yeah.
But
he's crying and he's very emotional, and you're sad because you're like, oh my God, what happened to this guy? what tragedy
I was crying
occurred.
tears of laughter.
And and he says that he was put atop a pole by his rectum and slung around his room. And it was startling, to say the very least.
I mean,
it was not what you were expecting.
You're right. Savannah's right. You're supposed to be sad for these.
I was sad and very confused.
Okay, so I'm going to have to look this up. Alien intrusion, huh? Okay.
Alien intrusion. Yeah, I shouldn't have laughed. It should have been very serious. But the thought of a guy being waved around the room that was too much for me. I'm glad
and his wife didn't wake up during this, and whenever he hit the bed, she rolled over and scolded him for making so much movement, and waking her up. And I was like, that sounds about right.
Oh my gosh, we also watched Fragments of Truth. That one was actually interesting.
I don't really remember Fragments of Truth.
It was it was really so basically the point of Fragments of Truth was, I don't remember who put that one out. Was they were like looking for the oldest fragments of the Bible, like the Old Testament. What are the oldest pieces, or not the Old Testament, of the New Testament? What are the oldest pieces of the New Testament we can find? They're like, we've dated this piece using carbon dating. So I guess carbon dating's okay now. And they did a whole bunch of really neat stuff, but then at the very end they were like, so that's why it's true, because it's old.
Didn't they have an archaeologist on that interview in the end?
An archaeologist, yeah.
An archaeologist. So did they even try to reconcile it with Ken Ham's view that there are no aliens at all? That aliens are impossible?
I mean, if you consider pan-dimensional demons aliens, then I guess not. Oh. Which I guess I would consider those aliens.
Well, Ken Ham has come right out and said that there cannot be life on other worlds because for multiple reasons, but one being that Jesus only came to Earth. So anyway, weird stuff like that. So you're saying instead this guy's argument is that the other planets are full of demons.
Well, I think that they think kind of the same thing, that like our universe is completely devoid of life everywhere except here, but in the other dimensions, like where heaven is, and all the other magical places.
To the best of my memory, they do not clearly state that.
They don't actually. Yeah, they just say pan-dimensional demons, and it's like
they may, and we just missed it though. It was a while ago. I mean, I would be interested to know.
How very scientific can you get with that? We've done studies on it.
On these pan-dimensional demons.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that was a trip. That was a trip. I mean, it's worth a blog post, I think. But we went to this place recently. We went to a Touchstone Museum, and because this was a place for anyone who can't see. Let me make my screen large. I've had you on there. So there you go. God's Plan of the Ages Bible map. So there's a creationist. This is a creationist museum near here, which you wouldn't really know is creationist, except it has a panel or a mural.
One wall in a relatively medium-sized museum.
Yeah, it just has this one wall, but it's got the whole creation story. It even says Darwin denied evolution on his deathbed. So
the museum was created by Sam Touchstone and his wife, as they were what they consider to be evolutionists for 30 years or so, and then later in life converted. And this is a museum of all of their taxidermy specimens. They were amateur taxidermists, I guess. Sam was, at least. And they have a lot of really neat stuff.
Oh, yeah, they do.
They have a few things honoring people they knew in different battles. So there's a little bit of a history section about the military, and a lot of really weird folk country history displays.
There are, yeah.
Yeah, it's very hodgepodge, but it is definitely worth seeing for the taxidermy exhibits. And
really nice giraffes and stuff like that.
They're really beautiful. And then it has this wall, which was fun. Very interesting. But yeah, I wouldn't slide it because of this one thing.
You would?
Okay. They've also got a quiz. It says there's a quiz.
Yes,
there is.
Which we took.
Did you pass?
What did Savannah take? I can ask you, Easy, if you want to answer.
Sure.
This is not the quiz. The quiz is on the inside.
Are you sure?
Yes.
This is part of it. Here, okay,
It's
fine.
about 3 pages long.
Jesus
The
Christ.
beginning is the part that matters.
Oh boy. Do you believe all have sinned against God and need to be saved? Yes or no?
No.
That's what I said.
Do you doubt, think, or know that you now, because that's capitalized, have eternal life and are on your way to heaven?
No.
Exactly what are you trusting for your salvation?
Nothing. I don't believe in salvation. What?
I was half expecting you to say no again. Human efforts.
This is a part that confused me greatly.
Oh yeah, because it just says human efforts as. Let me make it large. It says human efforts as
You can't read that.
living a good life, good works, deeds, and then it's backwards for me. Church membership.
It's a yes or no question, but there's no clarification as to what these things
It's
mean.
not a yes or no question though. You know, it's like what does that even?
So I guess what they're asking is, do these things lead to salvation? Living a good life.
Yeah.
Well, I just said I don't believe in the salvation stuff.
Yeah,
So,
that's
no.
what I said too.
We can just say no, 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 no to everything.
No.
And then what % of your trust for your salvation is in human efforts or other?
But I don't believe in salvation.
I put 0%.
They just kind of run on the assumption that you've answered yes to salvation.
What I enjoyed
is
that in the answer section, because we did this on the car ride home, and I had a good time with it. But in the answers of these, they posit verses for you to show you what the correct answer is if you answered something else. But they also ask you questions that they don't answer. I'm not sure of an example of one, but yeah, they ask you questions and then they offer absolutely no answers, no verses, and they just move to the next thing. And so I was like, oh, great, guys.
Can you work for a gift? Yes or no? And then do they answer that question? I don't remember. But it's a good time. Yeah, it's all a good time. It's always fun.
It's like if you're in your math textbook, how they have all odd numbers answered in the back with work shown. It's like that, except for if instead of showing the work, they just asked you another question. And so you just had the answer, and then you were like, "Oh, another problem for me to try to solve." Cool.
They'd be like, "What is the answer number 4?" And then you flip to the back. What is it, Billy?
You can tell there's a whole bunch of assumptions built into their quiz.
Definitely, yes.
Just a few, one or two, maybe.
A very limited worldview goes into it.
But I think they probably do they have anything like this at the art park, the Creation Museum?
Oh, do they have anything like little quizzes? You mean?
Yeah, little pamphlets.
I didn't see any pamphlets, but there were some things. Yeah, there were some semi-interactive quizzes about that same sort of thing. If it fits on a wall and doesn't require any work, they've got it. And I'm trying to remember if I can't remember any of the questions there. But then I probably walked past it and just sneered. So
did they provide tracks? The Touchstone Museum did have a little display of tracks that you could have.
Yeah. Of tracks.
Like
Chick tracks.
Except for they weren't that brand or whatever, but yeah, like a little comic that leads to salvation if you follow along.
Because I love Chick tracks,
I don't remember that. I just mainly remember wandering through this huge empty box.
Yeah.
One thing we wondered is whether or not the Touchstone Museum receives any federal or state money for staying open, because it does have, this contribution as far as I guess education would go.
They have a lot of plaques and panels and stuff that tell you about the animals in their little exhibits and whatnot. So I think if they remove that one mural, it would just be a taxidermy museum. It'd just be a perfectly normal taxidermy museum, I think. And I think it would have, you could take school field trips there or whatever, and that'd be fine.
I think that you could now, and it wouldn't cause problems in our area.
Well, probably. We are in Louisiana.
But in other areas it would. The murals that they had there were they were the main exhibit for me. There's an artist, Judy Campbell, who did many of the murals, and her work in particular was just beautiful. Some of the like particularly the giraffe, gazelle, wildebeest exhibit, she had all of these in the background, and the ones she had drawn were almost nicer than the specimens.
Oh,
Although they did have an exhibit where you could walk inside and take pictures and touch everything, and that made me cringe because it was the giraffe exhibit, which is my favorite animal, and I love seeing taxidermy specimens because I always forget how large they are. But to be able to like touch all over it is going to destroy the specimens. I was like,
yeah.
wear and tear is going to be
Which makes
bad.
it one of the really funny things is like right after you walk in, there's a plaque that says, like, we got these from zoos and other museums. We didn't go out and shoot all these animals.
Oh, that's good. That's actually reassuring. Yeah.
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 They didn't send out a dentist to go kill,
And
most of the wildlife in Africa.
They have an elephant jawbone, and they specify that it was found in the desert. It was not shot by them in the jungle, whatever, in the savannah. They found this. They didn't shoot it, but they found it. And they just grabbed it up.
Yeah, they just nabbed it.
And I like that. I was like, oh, okay. Thank you for not shooting an elephant.
There's a natural history museum at Brigham Young University in Utah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of the opposite of that. Because what it is, this wealthy Mormon family went out on safari all the time, shooting all these animals, and then they had them mounted and erected in the museum, as if that makes it okay. So you go into the museum, and there's just trophy heads all over the place. There's very little attempt to put them into a natural environment. It's just, and then there'd be photographs next to them of the happy members of the family with their big guns and this big dead animal. That, I went to that museum once and never again.
I can understand why.
Yeah. It was just an ego trip for this family. And
Bass Pro has a natural history museum that's kind of the same thing. It's more of a hall of trophies, and it's just so similar. It's in Missouri at their flagship store. And they also have, gun museums and archery museums that actually tell the history of these sports and, hit upon people who went maybe to the Olympics or, these really cool things. And then their natural history museum is all trophy heads.
This was the last buffalo.
Very interesting. Yeah. I actually read about,
here it is.
I was reading in the Best American Short Stories collection, which is great. I would highly recommend it. Kind of an article on this particular type of panorama that's used in museums, and it's an immersive room where it's included in the sound. So the pioneer of this in the late 1800s went to an island and shot a bunch of birds to do this particular exhibit with, and like 50 of the birds in that room were the last of their species ever recorded. and so the end of the story is kind of this moral on, as someone who is trying to research and educate, you have to do it carefully and with consideration to the members of the species you're trying to educate about. Don't take a specimen if they might be the last. If you don't see many of them, don't take it. Try to record it in any other way, even if it's just through memory.
Because it has some of the sounds, some of the bird sounds, but it's these birds that don't exist anymore.
Yeah, and it has eggs that were obviously cracked open upon transport and things like that are taxidermied as well. So you see not only the adult members, but these potential reproductive members that could have existed that are just gone. And it's kind of a tragedy. Tragic and valuable, I guess.
Well, okay.
A lot of peanuts in that.
There's bad ways to do science.
What are you talking about? I thought in any way was the best way. Just get the grant money and then chug right ahead.
Yes.
That was one of the things that my genetics professor talked about, was like the Chinese researcher who did the gene editing on the twins.
Oh, right. Yeah. He's in a little bit of trouble, but okay.
I mean, she was saying, is it ethical? And the class was like, no.
Can you explain more on that? Because I'm not really familiar.
Oh, this guy, his last name is He. Uh, Basically did some CRISPR work on humans, and what he was doing was sort of half-assedly modifying the CCR gene, because see, there's a delta 32 mutation that confers some resistance to AIDS,
Mm-hmm.
and so he thought he would use CRISPR to do that to people, and he did. But all the reports I've seen is he wasn't just emulating the delta 32 allele. He was actually generating new alleles. Who knows what effect they'll have and whether they'll be resistant. And they're also, the children were also chimeric, and it was just a botch all around. So yeah, it was terrible, sloppy work. But he could get up there and claim, I'm the first one to do gene editing in a human. Badly. Yeah. Yeah, and the latest word there was a new report just the other day that, yeah, they confirmed that there were these two kids and that they had been subject to CRISPR gene editing. And they also mentioned that there's a third potential child, that there's somebody who's pregnant with a modified genome.
Hmm.
Yeah. No, you just don't do that. That's real mad scientist type crap. And now you've got these two kids, and who knows what's been done with them.
Right.
Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, every kid born has mutations, so in that sense, okay.
Right.
The difference is, this is a case where these kids are born with mutations, and we can blame someone for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially in a field that has such, I think, dissenting public opinion. If you're interested in it, then a primary thought of yours should be securing funding for future scientists as well as yourself. So to do that, something that's going to be public, that's going to be obviously have backlash and be really slammed on, can affect the perception of your field of study as well. And it's going to affect other people researching, not just yourself. So I think it's just being a really bad steward. It's really crappy.
Yeah, the state of things with CRISPR right now is that it's a great tool, but most of the work should be done in animal models.
Mm-hmm.
Once we've worked out how it actually
Aren't humans animals?
Yeah, but
Jackson's going to be the workaround guy.
I'll be like, hey guys, let's think about this in terms of human.
right. No, we're gonna work exclusively on animals that don't have legal protections to their rights and their survival.
That don't have individual lawyers, yeah.
Like C. elegans and those
Yes.
kind of guys.
Yes, animals that can't sue you when you screw up. That's a very pragmatic way of looking at the ethics of it, but okay.
I mean, I think there's some humans currently alive that we could, volunteer up.
My first introduction to ethics was in a CNA course, and my professor was an emergency room RN, or my teacher. She wasn't really, I guess, a professor. She was teaching high schoolers, but she had us read ethics articles all the time because most of the people in the class were going to go on to pursue nursing. And she would have us debate on the ethics of certain things and share with us stories of her own thing. And I think that was so valuable because no matter what career I go into, I'll have that background. And I just think it's a really nice background to have, to think about, to be able to analyze a situation with some detachment and have a reference for what other people would decide in that situation.
Yeah. Got to watch out though, because you'll always get some students who start arguing for Nazism or something.
Do you ever get that, PC?
Not in my classes, but no, we've got a little group of students at my university who are big fans of Turning Point USA.
Oh my!
Yeah.
We saw some of them at LSU Baton Rouge. They had their little booth.
I think they were cool though.
They were. They were.
There were some of the nicer ones.
Those are the people I went up to and I was like, "Are you guys with the clickers?" And they were like, "No, we do political stuff." And I was like, "Okay, neat."
Yeah, no, Turning Point USA is just the worst of the worst. I mean,
Oh,
yeah,
they were college students manning that booth, so that's interesting.
yeah. Well, that's mainly what they do is they provide resources for college students to plaster your university with all kinds of garbage.
So you go
Yeah.
out and you have a fist fight with them.
No.
You
Yeah.
ever come back to my campus again?
No, well, the thing is that these are students at your university.
Yeah, these are your contemporaries.
Yeah. There's usually a small group of them. There's not very many of them, but they get all these slick, professional-looking signs, and they plaster them all over campus. And you know, there are rules. You can't go in and rip down other people's signs.
Right, yeah.
But I've noticed that at my university, a lot of students have taken to making their own signs, rebutting the Turning Point USA stuff, and tacking them up right next to it.
That's awesome.
That's pretty awesome, yeah.
I tried making a pamphlet, a counter kind of pamphlet, because we had a group. It was a consuming fire group from Mississippi. They were like Pentecostals who would come and yell at the students at LSU, and I would often come and bother them, and that was good fun.
Yeah.
Because they don't know anything about anything. And
they enjoyed talking to Jackson. He says bother as if it was uncordial. It was very cordial.
I mean, it always was. Yeah, they're very nice people. Because
I would never let you disrespect them.
Oh no, they were very nice people. At the back of their mind, they're always thinking, "Well, I'm going to go to heaven. You're going to burn forever." But they're very nice people, and
they'll treat you well no matter what they think. Or they'll treat you somewhat.
They hand out little chick tracts, and I tried to make my own pamphlet one time, but then I forgot about it, and then it was like late in the semester, and then we moved back up here, and so and then never got to it. And if there are any around here, not necessarily consuming fire, but if there are any yelling pastors up here, I've not met them. I mean, of course, here you can just park right outside your classroom. You don't have to walk across campus to the big central building, and so,
right.
If they're there, I probably wouldn't see them anyway.
They've been at a mall here in Shreveport.
Mall? Where?
Yeah, I think it was St. Vincent.
Bro, we gotta go.
Yeah, I saw it on Snapchat.
That's awesome.
Someone I knew from high school was at the mall, and they were, recording the person, but they were Hellfire and Brimstone speakers.
I think that's hilarious because nobody goes to the mall anymore.
There are very few points of congregation in Shreveport, so.
I mean, I've seen
very few points where there's a large populace at one time. Maybe the boardwalk.
I saw some people walking across Erie one time with some come to our church, but they were just like, "Hey, come see our church," and that was pretty much it. They just kept walking, and I was like, "Okay." I was going into Petco, so I was just like, "Okay."
I was taken once as a middle schooler to proselytize at the boardwalk. At my church,
I've never seen
we had a scavenger hunt, and each person's given a list of things to find. And so, you might go into a shop and have to pray for someone. You may have to give someone the Romans Road, and you would just stop people and try to talk to them. And at the time, I was like, scavenger hunt, getting a prize. But now that I'm older, I'm like, oh crap, that was awkward. I would have hated to be any of the people I stopped and talked to.
Predation on children by adults? Well, who would have guessed?
Yeah.
In a religious organization, no less.
It's weird to think back on.
At any rate.
So what you ought to do is have you heard of Sithrak?
Sithrak?
Oh.
How do you spell that?
Sithrak. It's humor. There's a online comic called Oglaf. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
I just found it.
There are t-shirts.
Oh, have I just corrupted you? Oh no.
Well, we're gonna know everything about it by the end of tonight, so probably so.
Oglaf
anyway,
oh my.
Oglaf is not safe for anyone. It's often kind of obscene. But one of the things the creator has done is she's put together these tracks for Sithrak. You can actually order these little chick-style tracks for the god Sithrak, who's a cruel god who will torture you no matter what. Doesn't matter whether you're good or bad or whatever. He's going to torture you anyway.
At least he's fair,
Yes, and it removes a lot of anxiety because now you don't have to worry.
Exactly what's going to happen.
This is ridiculous. This is explore random page. What are you doing? Okay, yeah. So, well, we will definitely have to look at that later because this looks
Probably
looks,
over dinner.
yeah, this looks crazy. So we're gonna definitely take a look at that.
It is crazy. Yeah, just a warning that OGLAF does have a lot of. I feel like I'm corrupting youth even mentioning it to you. Yeah, it's often kind of pornographic, but
It's okay, we can
Citra,
handle it.
yeah, okay.
But so
I think.
what you're saying, what you're implying is we should print these out and distribute them wherever we go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least the Cithrak ones are not pornographic, so you're probably safe there. But they do a good job of mocking proselytizers and evangelical types.
Oh yeah. Huh. We will definitely have to check out. I'll try to record a video. I tried recording of one of my interactions with the head of Consuming Fire.
I will not film for you. It makes me feel awkward.
It's all right. Well, I tried doing it for one of our interactions, and it was just so loud because there's like people all around us talking and whatnot. So I was like, I could barely hear what he said, even if we were yelling. And so I was like, okay, well, I would need a better. I mean, I'm working with a phone, so
after Jackson left LSU Baton Rouge, I was still there for a semester, and we had a new preacher come that he had never met before. I didn't really meet any of them. I was just there because he was there. But this particular guy was so inflammatory. He was more so than
Charlie.
No, than Russian street preacher.
Oh, Mikkel?
Yeah, he was more inflammatory than Mikkel.
How is that even possible?
Well, there was a girl walked by and she was a little androgynous, and he immediately threw slurs. Like he had just gotten there and he started throwing slurs. And she turned around and dumped her coffee over his head.
Oh, and good for her.
Yeah, it was awesome. And everyone was saying, "Don't dump coffee over his head." Now he's gonna scream even louder. But
right.
I was like, "Heck yeah, man, this is awesome!"
Because they feel persecuted now.
Yeah, and he was recording and everything, and so everyone was like, "Oh yeah, now he's a victim in this situation for people who think like he does." But whatever, man. It was crazy. It shook me a little.
Well, if not for Charlie, I actually got to talk to, or RJ and I both got to talk to Mike Riddle from Antis and Genesis because of the head of Consuming Fire. He was like, "Oh yeah, I know this guy." We were like, "Oh my gosh, can we talk to him?" Pretty much. And so he got us in touch with him, and we did. We had a whole talk with him, and it was not productive in the slightest.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Because he didn't even grasp natural selection. He's that low on the food chain.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't even get that, and so he's trying to say all of evolution's a lie. But he doesn't even grasp natural selection.
Yeah.
So anyways, but at any rate, so it's been over an hour now. And so,
yeah, we should probably wind things up.
Yeah. I think, and so we have like 16 people watching. Wow, that's a lot of people. Look at all these people flocking to us. Ego, take it in.
It's gonna get cut down. Don't worry. We just gotta wait.
We just gotta wait a little.
It's gonna happen.
Give it another decade or so.
The day Jackson comes home and just needs like Ben and Jerry's in a tub.
He corrected my phylogeny.
Yeah, he sits in a bubble bath crying and eating ice cream. It's gonna be great.
Yeah. So anyways, thank you for coming on today.
I really enjoyed talking to you, PZ.
Yes, we
fun.
Enjoy watching.
Do it again.
Yeah. I enjoy looking at your stuff and all that, and it's really great. And so we will definitely link to your channel in the description below so people can watch or can go check out all your videos afterwards. Okay. And all that good jazz. So
there's a bunch of spider stuff there, so I'll warn them. If you're arachnophobic, don't look. But.
Exactly.
Or overcome your fears. Take it as an opportunity for growth.
Yes, you can get your exposure in a safe way and overcome your fears.
And learn a little bit about them, maybe.
Yeah. Exactly. Listen to PZ's soothing voice.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, that's what's gonna get them through.
Yeah, that's a nice way of saying I'm boring and soporific, right?
Oh
no, Michael or David Menton is boring.
Oh.
But I mean, even even in his writings. That man couldn't write a
Yeah.
interesting thing to save his life. But oh well. At any rate,
It's
Okay.
been fun talking to you.
so we're gonna stop the broadcast. Thanks for coming, everybody. And
We'll talk to you all later. Yeah.
yeah, see you later, everybody.